You're joining the Loudr Lawyer Network, the podcast where we sit down with the law firm owners, attorneys, and visionaries that are making the most noise in the legal landscape nationwide to find out the secrets to their success. Other podcasts think they're getting loud, but we're getting louder. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Loudr Lawyer Network, where we help attorneys scale to $1 million months with powerful strategies and connections. One of my connections I have today is none other than Michael Tandy from the Tandy law firm. Tandy, Mr. Tandy, Michael, how are you doing? Matthew,
yeah, good. Thank you for having me on.
Man, I just saw that the Michael Jackson
the movie,
the Michael Jackson trailer, and I've just been everything's been Michael.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Matthew Tandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, man. So I got to look into your law firm, man, and seeing who you are and the establishment that you've built. Take me back to the moment before you ever became an attorney. What decision led you to becoming an attorney, and specifically PI?
So my undergraduate degree is in biology, and originally I wanted to go to vet school. And then after that, I decided it wasn't going to work out for vet school and started looking at other options. And I was working for the VA hospital. Actually, I was doing HIV and diabetes research in one of the VA hospital labs. And at the time in the state of Indiana, there were 8 VA hospitals, and the federal government cut the funding down to 2, I believe, something along those lines anyway. And so the doctor that I was working for came to me and said, "Your job doesn't exist anymore." He said, "You're not fired, but the funding for your job doesn't exist anymore." And as a 20-something-year-old, that means the same darn thing to me. It means I don't get paid. So then I started trying to look at what else I wanted to do. And I initially was going to study environmental law. I thought it was a good blend of a biology background and the law. And I've always kind of had a passion for the law. And so took all my 1L classes, contracts and torts and all things we're required to take. And then in my second year, I took an environmental law class and just didn't like it at all. It was very dry, code dense, and at the same time, maybe by coincidence or maybe by fate, whatever you want to call it, I was taking a trial practice class, and my professor ran our classroom like a courtroom, and we did the NEDA program. So we'd get a fake case fact pattern, and they'd say, "Okay, you're the plaintiff and you're the defendant," or whatever, and then they'd say, "Okay, you have to prepare an opening argument." And I love that. Competitive a little bit by nature anyway, and so then it got me an opportunity to be competitive but also use my head at the same time and think on my feet, and so then I decided trial lawyer was my path. That's really what I wanted to do.
Becoming a trial lawyer.
Yeah.
So what specifically led you to doing PI?
So I originally out of law school, I was a public defender in Marion County, and I kind of always have had an entrepreneurial spirit. And so there was always something that was attractive to me about owning my own firm. But at first I wanted to get some courtroom experience. So I was a public defender for a few years. I would absolutely recommend it to anybody that wants to be a trial lawyer. Go be a prosecutor or go be a public defender, and you will get in court. Whereas opposed to, and no knock to them, but I had classmates that they went to work for big law firms, and they're 5 years down their career, and they go, "Oh man, I get to second chair a deposition or whatever," and I'm going, "I've done 100 trials already." Like I said, and no disrespect to that path, but at the same time, I just felt like my first day as a public defender, my senior court partner had 3, back in the days of physical files, he had 3 files in his hand, and he comes up to me and says, "These 3 things are set for a bench trial today, pick one." And I said, no, today's my first day. And he said, "Yeah, that's why you're doing one. I'm doing the other 2, pick one." So, I tried my first case, my first day as a public defender, tried hundreds of bench trials, several jury trials, just really enjoyed that. And then I went from there to worked for an insurance company. I was a staff counsel for a large insurance company, and I wanted to see how insurance companies evaluate cases. Like, what do we need to say as a plaintiff to get them to put money on the file? And back, I don't know if they still do, but that was in the days of Colossus. I'm sure AI is, Colossus Plus now.
Right.
But they'd evaluate cases. What's the level of impact, light, moderate, or heavy? And if you say if you get the adjuster to put the right level in, it bumps the dollar value up. So that was important to me. And then I went from there to work for one of the big PI firms here in Indiana. Really wanted to see, how do they move files forward? How do they prosecute their cases and keep their cases moving? And it's a big firm. And so I learned a lot from them about how to manage files and how to keep we say around here, keep your trains on schedule. And then I took some of what I did as a public defender, and some of what I took as a defense attorney, and some of what I took from the large personal injury firm, and brought some of it here, twisted some of it around, and formed what we do now, which is, we're very process driven, we're very task oriented, and all of it is so that we can be as efficient as possible in moving our cases forward. Obviously, there's some of it that's out of our control, but I don't want us to be the delay. And so that's really the process that we've followed. I know that's a long answer to how did I get to PI, but
that's a good answer, because what you're explaining in your testimony is you did all the field work necessary. You got on the other side of the insurance companies, being able to look at how they process and see cases, therefore arming you with the ammunition you needed stepping into, your first job, going into work for a PI attorney. And what turn took you to where you said, I can do this on my own. I don't need the PI attorneys, the firm. I want to do this myself. What was that first case like? Take me back to that.
So I can pinpoint the moment that I decided I didn't want to do defensive work anymore. We had two young clients, young women that both had facial scars, and we were in mediation, and the insurance carrier was going to blow our deal. Like, we were all the way down to, okay, we want you to pay mediation costs. And the insurance carrier said no. And they said, just try the case. And I said, you guys really, these two young women, you're going to blow this whole thing over $500, like, just get it done. And it was really at that point that I felt like I was tired of fighting for the insurance company's money. And I felt some sympathy for these young women, that they weren't asking for much between the two of them. I think it was, splitting the cost is $250 for, just thought it was so silly. They were saying, well, this is our policy. And I said, just policy? Then why do you need me? Why don't you just have a bunch of policies? And I just decided that wasn't for me. And then to make the move on my own, I had kind of always wanted to. The firm that I worked for was pretty far away physically from where I lived. And I live in Indianapolis, and the firm was pretty far away. And I had a young child at the time, and the work-life balance wasn't there for me. And I was, felt like I was missing out on his life. And he was, I don't want to say like 6. And I thought, what am I doing? He's got soccer games and stuff that I want to go to. I don't want to do this and be so far away. And I felt like I was spending way too much time in the car. And we had, had talked about it, and I was looking at buying a house that was closer to the law firm that I was working at. And I decided enough mornings in a row, I woke up and went, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I finally pulled the plug and said, whatever money I was going to use to buy that house, I banked and decided I was going to use that to start this.
Start your own law firm, Tandy Law Firm.
Yep. And so we did criminal defense and personal injury for a while. I had a background in criminal defense, obviously being a public defender, and and it's the life cycle is faster. So the average life cycle of a criminal defense case is 90 days ish. Mm-hmm. From open to close, and we can, it's cash, and the payments come up front from the clients. And so It was like, okay, we can use this to keep the lights on. And the average life cycle of a PI case is, a year plus. And obviously at the beginning of it, it's always money out. I've got to buy crash reports. I've got to buy medical records. I've got to buy, pay court reporters to take depositions and that kind of stuff. That it's like, okay, well, if I do the criminal defense and use that money to finance our PI cases, then we can get where we want to go. And we, about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit less, but somewhere in that range, finally just said, we are not doing criminal defense cases anymore. We don't have time for it. So we cut it off completely.
That means you were success happened. You laid the groundwork. And what case was the defining case for you where you decided, like, it's all PI, I don't need the criminal anymore? What was that case? Everyone has that make or break case. What was your make or break case that really set it in stone that PI was all you're going to do?
For me, honestly, it was the fact that I could see, and I don't have like a one, but I could see it. I could see it coming down the road. And it was, the thing about criminal defense is it's very labor intensive for my time. If we've got a client who's in Marion County in the morning and one in Hamilton County in the afternoon and one in Hendricks County tomorrow. And so I was driving all over creation for all of these hearings. And some of them would be, a 5-minute hearing on an initial reading of rights or whatever, and go, gosh, what am I doing? I'm driving all over. And, in a PI case, I can manage the great majority of it from here, from the office. And of course, I guess what I've been saying is the silver lining of COVID was it allows us to do depositions by Zoom, do mediations by Zoom. And everybody's kind of gotten so used to it that it requires very little travel for me to move around. So that was really the, like, okay, I'm done driving all over the world just to, do initial hearings or do a pretrial conference and then, sit in the courtroom for 45 minutes waiting for my case to get called up, when it wasn't as productive of my time as I thought it could be. And then also thinking about how to scale that out. So as a criminal defense lawyer, how do you scale that out without adding more lawyers? Because there's only so many hearings I can attend.
Right.
So I think that's really the aha moment for me was, we can't really scale the way I want to scale if we're doing criminal defense work.
Yes. Speaking of scaling, tell me, how did you go about scaling your business to bring it to the success that it is today? You're in Indianapolis, and I think you're in Florida, right? And you were recently talking about going out to Colorado.
Yeah, so I had always wanted it to be so this is funny side story. So when I originally thought, I want to have a multi-state practice, we used to go to spring break every year in Panama City Beach, and we'd be going down Front Beach Road, and I'd see all these kids in handcuffs, and I thought, we could do like a pop-up shop, and I'm giving away my idea here. So if somebody else wants to do this, I thought we could do a pop-up shop like they do for Halloween stores or fireworks stores.
Hey.
We could just do it during spring break season. We could put a store on Front Beach Road, and we could run it through all these, possession cases and minor in possession of alcohol and all this stuff. We could just do it for a couple months out of the year. I thought it was a great idea. Well, then when it got to the point that we're not doing criminal defense anymore, and I'd still kind of wanted to have a multi-state practice. So, my son was little, and I kept thinking, we got baseball, we've got this and all of this other stuff going on. I don't have time for it. Then COVID hit, and it was kind of that, fish or cut bait moment. Like, you're either going to do it or stop talking about doing it. And I am very much a don't talk about it, be about it person. So I'd been talking about it for a long time, and I thought, all right, it's now. We're not going anywhere. Nobody's doing anything. So either do it or don't. And so I took the Florida bar in 2022, passed, got admitted to practice in Florida. And then we have an office in Tampa right now that's a satellite office. And so I went to law school at the University of Denver, and recently went out there for my law school reunion, started talking to some friends. And one of my buddies said, why would you go to Florida? You have friends here. And I'm sitting there looking at the mountains thinking, yeah, I love this place. Why would I not put an office here? So I applied for admission to Colorado, just got notice, I want to say the weekend before last, that application was
Wow.
accepted. So I'm just in the process of scheduling to take the oath for admission. And then we will have a satellite office in Denver as well.
So you're going full circle, coming back home to where it all started.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful, now that's a story. That's a great marketing story too, by the way.
And I just, Denver is such a great city, and I miss the mountains. I really do.
Listening to your story, listening to how you built, and it takes, behind every great person, there's a team, there's a village and stuff. Tell me a little bit about your village and how do you pull your people together? Because you seem to have a very impressive team all the way across the board.
Yeah, we really do. One of the things that I did after we crossed over our 10-year mark, actually, I took a step back and decided to make some decisions about where we were. Before that, we had, it was myself and really one primary legal assistant for a long time. And we were okay. We had on an average of about 100 or 120 open files at any given time. And we were doing okay. But I actually had an injury, and I had 3 knee surgeries in 2 years. I blew out my ACL doing Taekwondo. And that time away kind of forced me to reevaluate, like, is this really what I want to do? And I went through all the thought process of like, do I even really want to be a lawyer? I could go open a restaurant somewhere. I like to cook. But then when I came back to it, it was like, well, why would I open another business? I already own a business.
Right.
Why not just run the business that I own and stop thinking about it like I'm a lawyer and start thinking about it like I'm a business owner who sells legal services.
Right.
That moment, that was really the aha moment for me of like, this is what we need to do. And so then I hired Kirsten. She's the office manager here. She's amazing. She's done great things for us and helped us really network and outreach and really ramp up our marketing. We have a litigation file manager, a pre-litigation file manager. We actually are using a virtual assistant right now, which I think has been a great option for us for some of the behind the scenes stuff. So she coordinates gathering bills and records for us, things like that, because, she doesn't need to be here physically anyway if she's reaching out to this hospital and this treatment provider and this thing. So it made sense for us to sort of outsource that. And then we're actually got a job posting right now. We're going to be hiring another pre-litigation file manager sometime in the next few weeks, hopefully. And then we'll scale out. Once we get the Colorado office up and running, we'll probably look at adding an associate attorney. I think that's in our big picture plan. We're just not quite there yet.
So right now you're the attorney on everything. You're manning the ship in all 3 soon to be states.
Yes.
That's impressive, man. I mean,
that's a lot.
I like the fact that you got injured and then you took a moment to be like, man, do I really want to be an attorney? That just says you know how to build a business. That's what that tells me right off the bat. You know how to build a business. You know how to put things into place. You've been in 13 years, right? 13 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And
it was that 10-year mark. And I went, wow, we made it 10 years. Oh gosh, we're still around, because for the first couple of years, it's like, oh shoot, did I make a terrible mistake? Go get a job. What are you doing? You don't have any clue how to run a business. And then it was like, okay, then we're kind of just grinding along. And then, I know there are faster paths to get there, but for us, this is the path we took, and it kind of hit that 10-year mark. And it was a step back and really an evaluation of, is this what we want to do? And what made me really concrete in my thought process was that step back and say, is this what I want to do? And when the answer came back yes, then it's all go. I mean, it's all green lights from there, because then I'm recommitted to doing it. It wasn't by happenstance. It wasn't by, I just kind of fell into this legal field or whatever. I made that choice. And then by making that choice, I think it opened my eyes to, all right, now run this thing the way you want to run it. And so that's kind of where we've got, I think, 635 open files right now.
635 open files. Wow, wow. You're a big personality. Like we've seen you talking, you command. Your presence is commanding. Like you're very straightforward. You're not stuttering for the next moment. How many cases are you guys doing per week now? How many cases are you getting per week?
About 50. We're screening about 50. We're taking about 10. We're also really, one of the other things, so like I said, when we went through that process of screening, of deciding that this is what we wanted to do, one of the things that we were very deliberate about, and even in our language, we don't say clients hire us, we say that we hire them. The distinction for us internally is we avoid red flags. If a prospect calls and it sounds like they're trying to scam the system, just say no. If a person calls and they, say, if we can't reach them, if they're hard to get a hold of, just say no. Because if they're hard to get a hold of at the very beginning of the case, they're always going to be hard to get a hold of. And how much time are we going to spend trying to reach Joe Smith to get him to respond to interrogatories a year and a half from now? And then defense counsel files a motion to compel because we can't get a hold of our clients. So say no up front. So out of the 50 we screen, we probably take 10.
10 a month, huh?
Oh, 10 a week.
10 a week. Oh, okay. What process do you guys go about in terms of marketing? How does the name Matthew Tandy, how does that name get out there? How do people?
We have a few billboards around. We've done on-air marketing, so we had some TV commercials. We've done some stuff on the radio. The Indy 500 is coming up here, so obviously that's a big thing locally. So we'll be on the Indy 500 pre-race broadcast. We want some airtime on the race broadcast, so that's fun for us being locals here. It's a big deal. I think they average somewhere around 300,000 people at that race. So it's a big event and it's a lot of fun. So we do that. We're doing some digital marketing. We just hired on a new SEO, SEM company to kind of ramp up some of our digital things that we're doing, and community involvement. I think that's something that I really wanted us to focus on, and we did choose to focus on. And our vision plan was we will be involved in our community. So we probably do something once a month or so. A couple weeks ago, we planted trees for Keep Indianapolis Beautiful. We have in Tampa, we volunteered at the Hillsborough County Humane Society, walking dogs and doing things like that. We've volunteered. Every year I volunteer at the Moselle Sanders Foundation, serving Thanksgiving meals for the underprivileged. We've done Toys for Tots. We've donated coats. We try to find things that we're actually active in. So it's not just writing a check is great. I love it. If we can donate money, we do. But I'd rather do something that's hands-on. I'd rather put my hands in the ground and plant a tree than to just write a check. So that's the way we've approached it.
That's a beautiful, man. That right there speaks, to what here we at Loudr Lawyer, we talk about the Loudr Lawyer, which I'll get to later. But what you're doing, having the community involvement and going to the matters that are beyond being an attorney. Beyond being an attorney, you're a human being at the end of the day, and that shows with you. What's the biggest myth about PI attorneys that needs to be put to rest, that needs to die or go away? So to speak.
The greedy lawyer. It's always the one that's out there, is the greedy lawyer, and I can't stand it. And it's the stuff that makes news, right? It's the way that people perceive us is, oh, this lawsuit's only happening because of the greedy lawyer. And the reality of it is it's the person. It's the individual called the lawyer. The lawyer didn't run that person down and say, hey, can I take your case, please? It's somebody originated the case. And the stuff that we see in the news is the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, right? So we don't know. And obviously the most famous one that they teach in law school is the Stella Liebeck case, the McDonald's hot coffee case. And everybody goes, oh my gosh, she got all this money. And of course coffee is hot. And of course she's burned herself. It's the greedy lawyers are doing this. And at least my recollection, and I could be wrong on some of the details of this, but her lawyer only wanted the McDonald's to pay her medical bills, and they said no. And she suffered, I want to say, second and third degree burns under genitalia. Like, can you imagine how painful that would be to burn your crotch with? And so there was this whole thing that people don't hear about, is that McDonald's was brewing their coffee, whatever, 10 degrees hotter than the industry standard. And they had multiple complaints, and they knew it, but they ignored all that. And they said, well, our customers want to have their coffee hot by the time they get to work. So we're just going to ignore the standard and ignore all this, and we're going to do it anyway.
And those paper cups.
and the lids that don't fit right, and the person, but what it all came down to, I think my recollection is that jury awarded her a verdict that equaled 1 day's coffee sales for McDonald's. One. So it isn't the greedy lawyer who was driving the case. It was the corporation that wouldn't treat somebody fairly when all she originally wanted was to have her medical bills paid. And so I think that the greedy lawyer one is the one that I fight with the most. Or sometimes we get, clients or client prospects call and go, I'm not the kind of person who likes to sue, but I'm here. And I said, there's nothing wrong with filing a complaint. If somebody rear ends you at a stoplight and you're hurt, why wouldn't you make that person take responsibility for their actions? I don't think that's being quote unquote greedy. I think it's trying to do what's right.
Yes. As you with that statement that you just said, being that person that's right, that message, and you started out in Indianapolis, how have you duplicated that same process in Tampa? How is Florida? How is that?
We're just kind of starting it. The thing is, we are busy here, so we don't have. We're slow rolling it. Let me say it that way. We're kind of trying to build it organically. We're not really aggressively marketing there. What we have done is gone down there a few times and tried to network. So we've met a few other law firms. We've met with some treatment providers. We've done some things like that, and then trying to be involved in the community already. And so we're putting our approach to this will be, let's do the community involvement part first before we ask for the business. So I think that it's a way for us to be able to say, hey, we didn't ask for anything, and it's genuine. So we want to do the work. We want to show that we want to be part of it, and we're not just there to take things out. We're there to give things back.
So how does that process work? Here's you. You're the brand. You're the person walking into town from a successful situation that you have in Indianapolis. How do people receive you in Florida?
It's been really great. It's been really great, honestly. And so before we made the decision of where to land in Florida, obviously, Florida's a big state. So I looked around in Miami. I looked in Fort Lauderdale. I looked in Naples. I looked in a couple other places that I can't recall. And so ultimately, Tampa became the choice, at least in part, because it has the same kind of size and feel as Indianapolis.
Yes.
Tampa by itself isn't that big, but when you take Tampa, St. Pete, and Clearwater, it's about the same size as Indianapolis. And it kind of has a similar feel. The airport's really easy to get around. Flights are good, things like that. So those were really our driving factors is, Miami is super saturated. Of course, there's a lot of lawyers who are barred in New York, and then they want to spend time in Miami and things like that. And so it's pretty busy. And then obviously, Morgan & Morgan is there. So they're taking up a lot of oxygen for sure. And no knock to their game, but so we don't want to be, I think they're in Orlando, if I recall correctly. So we don't want to, be in their backyard, so to speak. So we're just we'll be neighbors. We'll be down the street a little bit. So that's sort of how we ended up doing it, landing in Tampa, but the reception has been good. We've met quite a few people, and I think, like I said, we go down about once a quarter, try to network, try to meet people, just try to build it from the ground up and not really put too much pressure on it.
Right. No, that's a good approach. So here you are, Matthew, you're in a situation to where you are establishing yourself in all these different states right now. Tell me, at the end of the day, where do you see Tandy Law Firm in 5-10 years?
I I would really want to do is have an established office in Tampa, an established office in Denver, and then potentially I have thought about maybe growing a little bit. I've got some connections in other states. I've got a lawyer that I keep in close contact with that's in Tennessee that I would love to bring on board at some point in time if the timing fits. And, I just want to grow it out, but keep the same feel. You know what I mean? I want to make sure that we're maintaining our level of customer service and make sure we're handling things in the right way. So I certainly have some ideas about growing it. It's just, we'll see. We're going to take it slow and we're not trying to build a sandcastle. You know what I mean? I want to build something that's going to last and be what I want it to be.
Right. So what's your button? What's your slogan? What is the Tandy Law Firm slogan?
So our slogan is get the personal attention you deserve. And so it's really, in my thought process, really like personal injury or make personal injury personal. And so the way that it's sort of highlighted on our marketing and billboards is the word personal is the key word that we're keying on. And it's more than just a number. You're more than just a file. So I want people to feel like they've got somebody they can talk to. And we're really trying to make a concerted effort that we talk to people like real people. I try not to use a bunch of legal jargon and lawyerese. We try to make sure that we're available to answer questions. If our clients have a deposition or a mediation, I do the prep calls myself so that I make sure that I talk to them. And when we do that, I always say, let me go through my spiel here and let me tell you kind of a roadmap of what a deposition looks like. Because if I were sitting in that chair, that's what I would want. I would feel less nervous if somebody would just tell me what to expect. It's not going to be great. You're not going to love it. You're not going to go, wow, these depositions are awesome. I should do more. But at least if you know what you're walking into, then I wouldn't be as nervous.
Right. Okay. That's a good answer. I like that. Tell me, I've seen you have this colorful career that's led you to where you are now. If a new attorney walked in, young attorney, or your younger self, you can pose it either way. Knowing everything you know now, what would you tell that person or yourself? For what you know today?
Trust yourself. I mean, that would really be what I would say. And then, like I said earlier, go be a public defender or a prosecutor if you want to be a trial lawyer. Other than that, what I would tell my younger self is trust yourself. Like I said, when I first started this practice, there were so many mornings I woke up and went, oh my gosh, did I make a terrible, terrible mistake? Go get a job. You can't do this. Go work for somebody else. And then it was like, but just do one more day. Just do one more day. And then one more day led to the next day, the next day. And then, like I said, I picked my head up and go, gosh, we've been here 10 years. We're still here. The lights are still on. We're still eating. So, all right, we're good. And then, put a plan in place. The other thing I would say is have a vision and write it down. That has been so key, I think, into growing where we're at least, we're not, I don't even say we're successful. I don't see success as an end, it's a road. And so we're on the road, but we're gonna keep working and we won't be successful, maybe ever. Because if I keep moving the goalpost, then, we'll just keep trying to hit it. But I think one of the key things was actually writing down a vision, not just going, oh, here it's in my head. This is what I want to be. I wrote it down on a piece of paper and then, had it polished up. I hired an online, Fiverr editor or whatever and said, polish this thing up and format it and make it look good, put it into a vision plan. And so that when we have our quarterly meetings, it's the first thing we do is read our vision. And then we talk about where are we in terms of, are we meeting that vision? So yeah, if anybody that says, oh, okay, well, I want to start my own law firm, that would be the biggest piece of advice I would give is trust yourself and have a vision.
Right. Well said. And I want to say you are successful. Success is the fact that you woke up this morning and you're steadily driving and you steady have the vision going. So you're successful in what you're doing. You don't know when the end game is. As long as you're breathing, there's a moment, right?
I like that definition. Yeah, fair.
Yeah, there's a moment. So that leads me to the question, and we're gonna get out of here. What does the term Loudr Lawyer mean to you? When you hear Loudr Lawyer, tell me a loud.
I think it's somebody who's passionate about what they do. And, I think when I talk to people and they say, oh, what type of law do you do? And I tell them, they go, do you like that? And I say, yeah, I love what we do. And I think having a passion for what you do is what separates a Loudr lawyer from an average lawyer. If you really enjoy it, it's, as the saying goes, if you enjoy what you do for work, you'll never work a day in your life. And I really, truly enjoy what we do. I love when I can help somebody get recovery on their case. I love when we can, put a settlement check in somebody's hand that maybe they didn't even expect. I think a lot of people feel like the cards are stacked against them and they don't have a voice. And to be that voice for somebody, to be louder, to be their voice and say, you do have a voice, and to make some situation a wrong, to right a wrong.
Oh, that's well said. That's beautiful, man. Yes. Hey, you earlier we were talking, you were mentioning something about, you said you messed up your leg when you were doing jiu-jitsu, right? Or taekwondo?
I was doing taekwondo. So yeah, we were talking before we went on air is that we just recently donated an AED device, which is a automated external defibrillator device. We have a client who lost her husband in a jiu-jitsu gym. He died on the mat, sadly. And then I've been doing taekwondo with my son for 14, 15 years or so. And one of the instructors, master instructors at our sister school, died on the mat. And, so we thought it was important to do something. I thought we could do something. So we donated an AED device to our school where we attend taekwondo. I think it's important also for us to be active in the community and like we talked about earlier, not just writing the check, but what else can we do? What can we do that's active? What else can we do that's hands-on or more concrete? So we donated the device to our school. We've scheduled to do training. So I'm actually going to attend the training myself because I'm one of the black belts at the school.
Oh, you're a black belt?
I'm a 3rd degree black belt in taekwondo. Yeah. Oh. So our master instructor and myself and a couple of the other black belts are going to do the training class, and so that we can, know how to use it properly. I hope we never need it, but if we do, I'm glad that it's there.
Did these people die in competition or just practice?
Practice.
Wow.
Practice. Yeah, that's the really sad thing. Our master instructor from our sister school wasn't even heavy full contact practice. They were just doing light drills. The client that we have, sadly, her husband was actually at a jiu-jitsu gym. It's a lot more, grappling and that kind of stuff. And they were actually rolling, I think is the term they use, but they were, sparring or whatever. So that he was in a more active participation. Our master instructor from our other school was kind of stretching. And I think it went from exerted energy to a stop. They had stopped to take a break, and something about that, threw his heart out of rhythm. And so that's the part that we really believe that had there been an AED device there, he might still be with us. So that's something it's close to me.
Man, that shows the human side of you, not just being an attorney, but being someone who really looks at human life and values it. And I'm sure working with the patients, that like you said, that speaks loud. And that's a strong statement right there.
I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that because it means a lot. Like I said, it's something that's really close to me.
Yeah. How would people get a hold of you?
So our website
right now.
Yeah, our website is tandylawfirm.com. Phone number 317. Well, actually, you know what? Our 800 number is 800-TALK-TLF. That's probably the best way for me to put that out there. Our local number is 317-669-0655, but Talk TLF is a little easier to remember.
So people in Florida, soon to be Colorado, that's where they can get you.
Yes, 1-800-TALK-TLF.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Well, Matthew, thank you for being a guest today. You're such a beautiful human being, sir, and
I appreciate the time.
you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thanks for being a part of the Loudr Lawyer Network. If you're enjoying the conversation, let us know. Give us a like and subscribe to never miss a thing. We'll see you next time right here on the Loudr Lawyer Network.